Hi guys, Paul here, and what we're going to be doing in today's video is actually running through the goggles that we have. We're still getting lots of questions about the various goggles and what the pros and cons are and which one should I go with, etc. So essentially what we're going to be doing here is I'm going to cover these four goggles that we actually have, which is the Dominator HD2, the Dominator V3s from Fatshark, and also the SkyZone V1 and V02s. So looking at the SkyZone V1 versus the V02s, the main difference being the later Model 1 actually has a DVR functionality built into it, so you can record your FPV feed, and also the ability to view 3D footage with the supplied 3D camera. Now I've done a video on the SkyZone V02s, I'll link that in the description. But having said that, look, the 3D, we haven't used that much. We initially did the review with it, and I followed it up with probably about 6 flights in 3D mode. And look, I found I really struggled flying in 3D, especially when it switches back and forwards between 3D and 2D as it loses reception from one receiver. I just found it really, really hard on the eyes. So hence, I'm not going to cover the 3D aspect of it. I've done that in a previous video, and you're more than welcome to have a look at that. And I think all my opinions and what I covered there are still valid today. Now, the other difference between these two goggles is if you have a look at the V1s, they've got that joystick on the top of them. Now, that joystick is used to adjust the brightness and contrast of the goggles. The V02s don't actually have that. They have that built into the menu system. So the downside with that is what you're going to have to do to change your brightness and contrast if you need to make a slight tweak because the sun's come out or it's getting darker, is you're going to have to actually go into the menu first and then do the adjustments via those buttons that you've got on top. Whereas with the V1s, it's actually really quite convenient having that little joystick there because you can make adjustments even while you're flying, for that matter. Just go into a hover, or if you're flying an aircraft, put it in PA mode or RTH mode, and you can make quick adjustments on the fly. Whereas with the V02s, it's a little bit more fiddly. The other thing you'll notice is the V02s, the buttons are recessed in a little bit further and the buttons are a little bit stiffer to press. And I think the reason they did that was obviously because of the fact that when people were grabbing the V01s, they would accidentally press the buttons on it, etc. The other difference is the eye cups. The V1s have 2 eye cups, and the V02s have a single piece eye cup. I think I prefer the single piece eye cup. That seems to work a lot better and it's a lot more comfortable. Kind of similar to what Fatshark's done, but I think Fatshark's implementation is a lot better. Now, the other difference between these two goggles is the V1s have the LCD display isn't as sharp and as detailed as it is on the V02s, and the contrast and colors are also better on the V02, so you're getting a little bit more detail in the image. Now, the big one that I actually haven't covered is the way they position on the face. The V1s have a deeper recess for your nose, and the V02s, it's nowhere near as deep. So as a result, it doesn't seem to sit on some people's faces as well. Obviously me included. I just find if I'm flying 1 or 2 packs or 3 packs, I can easily do it with the V02s, but I find with the V1s, I can fly 10-15 packs, no dramas whatsoever, and I'm a lot more comfortable. So out of these two goggles, even though the V02s have actually got a better LCD display on them, they've got the DVR built in, my preference is still with the V1s that I use. I still fly with those at the moment. So they're the goggles that I use, V1s. So what we'll do now is run through the Fatshark range. Now we've got the Dominator HD2s, which were supplied to us by Fatshark and Hobby King, and we also have the Dominator V3s, which we purchased. Now the main difference between these two goggles is the HD2s are actually running a 4:3 screen, and it's a very, very large screen, kind of like being up close to a TV screen or a projector. And the Dominator V3s, you're running 16:9 aspect ratio, so it's widescreen, so your 4:3 image from your camera is going to be stretched out. Some people don't like that. I personally don't mind that whatsoever. And the screen it feels like it's actually further away from you, so you've got a much smaller image to look at. Now, for myself personally, I prefer the Dominator V3s only because I can see all the picture the whole time without having to look around. There are some pros and cons to both of these. Essentially, the HD2, I know A lot of people are reporting issues with them not being able to focus on the whole screen, as in they can't get a sharp, when they're adjusting the IPDs on them, they can't adjust it to achieve a sharp image all the way through the whole image, as in from edge to edge. I'm finding I can get a pretty good image with them, but when I place the HD2s on my face, I've got to get the positioning absolutely spot on. If I don't, I end up with an image that might be slightly blurry to one side. Whereas the Dominator V3s, I don't actually have that issue, but the downside being the image is actually a lot smaller. So that's kind of the pros and cons between the two. Now these Fatsharks, in my opinion, have got the best image quality in terms of the brightness of the image and the contrast ratio. As a result, because it's more punchy, the image, you tend to see a lot more detail in our low resolution FPV feeds. So that's one of the big advantages with the Fatsharks. But as far as which one of these two is actually best, that's going to be up to you guys to decide. Now, it's also worth noting that these guys, the Fatsharks, don't come with a module. We purchased the NexWave module because we wanted the added benefit of having race band for when it's required. So we can run the immersions. Normally we run immersions, and then if we go overseas or whatever, we're usually switching over to race band. Now, the other advantage with the Fatsharks is the fan system and also the way the faceplate actually positions on the face. They're quite comfortable to actually wear for long periods of time, and you don't have an issue with the goggles fogging up. Now, the other difference between these and the SkyZones is the fact that they don't have diversity built in with the current receivers available for them. I believe the new LaForge have actually got diversity built in those, and they've got a diversity version of their receiver. So I haven't tried that out, so that's probably worth having a look at. Now, interestingly, Thomas is actually flying now. His goggles, he's using the Dominator V3s now 99.9% of the time, ever since we purchased them just before Dubai. The only time he's actually switched back to the SkyZones was at the D1 Drone Nationals that we had in Ballarat recently, probably about a month or so ago now. Now, at that event, the interesting observation we made was with the SkyZones, they seem to handle the multipathing and the reflections a lot better than what the Fatshark receiver did. I'm not sure what the reason was, but that was pretty much the only circumstance where running the SkyZones was actually superior to running these Fatsharks. But 99.9% of the time we've flown with them indoors, they've been quite good. Obviously, they don't have the diversity. If you pop the diversity on the SkyZones, you're going to get better range and a better punch through, depending on the environment. So that's another consideration to make. So that's basically a quick rundown on all 4 sets of goggles that we actually have. Like I said, as far as recommending which one I think is best, I don't think you can really go wrong with any one of these. They're all good goggles. They've all got their advantages and disadvantages. I know Final Glide absolutely loves his HD2s, so do a lot of people, whereas Thomas and myself prefer the Dominator V3s. So it just depends what side of the fence you sit on. So it could be just a matter of getting used to them. So like I said, having said that, that's pretty much our take on these goggles. It by no means makes us correct in any way whatsoever. If you've got any questions, please leave them down below and I'll do my best to actually cover them. Anyway, I'll leave the video at that, and thanks very much for taking the time to watch this video.